Okay, everybody, for the sake of getting up there semi on time, so let's trundle along. So we're also presenting a group work analysis. I'm Beth, this is Bella, Yuyoung, Lauren and Marie. And so the structure of our presentation today will be that we'll all share about our individual group work experiences, reflect a little bit on the goals that we set amongst the group, and then the second section of the presentation will be about our analysis of working in a group together. So the group that I participated in was the Tier Young Adults, and this is a group of young people who are passionate about social justice and sustainability and how this fits into an outworking of faith in today's society. As you can see on the slide, the TIER stands for Transformation, Empowerment, Advocacy and Relief. And so when we as a group meet together, these are some of the things that we're discussing, but these are also some of the things that we do together when we get together and organise maybe a public event of advocacy, for instance, going to Canberra to Parliament House to talk with politicians about our foreign aid budget. That's so cool. Thank you. So the skills and knowledge engaging within the group, and the ones that I found useful in negotiating were a shared leadership and facilitation style. So everybody takes in turn to prepare the content. Other people take it in turns to open up their house for the group to meet in or make a meal for everybody. And when we all come to the table to discuss the topic, whether it be about money use, waste, things like that, everybody's feedback is welcomed and everybody has a seat at the table. There's a shared responsibility, as I mentioned, and it's a safe space for learning and opinions. The second question is, how did they respond to this? I think people within my group really like this style of shared leadership. It's a mutual aid group, and because it's focused on issues of social justice, that idea of shared responsibility and shared tasks is very much social justice minded, I think, and creating a good sense of community amongst each other was a real strong point of the group. And I think because everybody's interested to hear what people have to say and they want to be challenged by what people have to say, it's quite an open platform to share your opinions on things.
Right, the group I did was Pole Divas. Pole Divas is a pole dancing and aerials based fitness class aimed at empowering its students through the promotion of confidence, strength and feminine power via teaching the art of pole dance. It's an all-female run and owned business with no males allowed in the studio in order to promote comfort and ease and security within their spaces, which is another key goal. The classes are an 18+ age restriction, but encourage all ages, including above, mums, all of that, all get involved to get involved with the fun fitness trend. It combines a mix of dance, cardio, strength and stretching to produce a full body workout, all while promoting self-confidence, body appreciation and the importance of fitness and strength. So the skills and knowledge that I found useful when approaching the group, the main skill I found useful when engaging with this community group was prior knowledge and having an understanding and respect for the art that was taking place, as well as intertwining the communication and interpersonal skills I think I have as a social work student. Still in the present, pole dancing is seen as a taboo and is more often than not pretty negatively stereotyped. So coming in as someone who already advocates for, is involved in the sport, really assisted me in any interactions I had. Remaining open and non-judgmental was also a key skill I ensured I utilised across all communication with anyone I interacted with, students, staff, all that. And finally, how did the community group respond to me approaching them? So I mainly just observed the business, so no negotiations were made, but they were very open and welcoming when I initially approached them to observe. This welcoming nature was clearly very evident in all aspects of their business, aiming to build rapport with each and every woman who walks through their door to ensure comfort is immediate and an encouraging, empowering atmosphere is established from the get-go.
I did Barrett Community Yoga, and this is a free service provided by the local exercise group, I believe, and there's probably between 15 and 20 people that attend this group, and the leader is probably 25-ish. There's an array of ages and cultures that attend, and socio-economic groups. That basically covers the whole group. The skills and knowledge that I used to access this group, the knowledge was basically about surrounding leadership and rapport building. I'd been part of the group for quite a long time, so I'd established quite a bit of trust in the group, so it was quite easy to communicate with them. As the group is accessible, there's a lot of diversity, and they're very accepting, so the leader generally models the behaviour required by the group members and establishes norms among the group members as to how they accept and promote togetherness as a group. There is, quite a welcoming atmosphere, and the response that I had from the group, as I'd been there for quite a long time, and it mainly just required me witnessing the group, there wasn't really a lot of negotiation required. However, I did find that I hadn't been there for quite a while, and they were very, very welcoming, and they were pleased to see me, and that applies to much of the group as it's an open group. So they are used to accepting new members and people who haven't come for quite a while. But it's a key goal of the group to promote empowerment and togetherness as a community.
So the group that I'm going to talk about is actually the same group that Becky talked about earlier. She kindly invited me to observe her group. So it's a Mandarin learning group in the Multicultural Community Center, and it's an education group consists of one volunteer Mandarin teacher and students with diverse background. The majority of them are Hong Kong immigrants whose first language is Cantonese. And their purposes is to deliver skills to members in the community and also build connections with each other. And the skills and knowledge that I find are useful as an observer is the observation skill that I gained in the last placement and the understanding of group dynamic. Because during the observation, I was very aware of the group dynamics and changes in the group and noticed the limitation of the leader style in the group. As the leader actually, I find that she failed to recognize the cultural differences in the group. So for example, the teacher neglected the fact that most participants only read traditional Chinese and did not clarify the confusions, even though she noticed the group have difficulties in understanding the content. And because I'm not actually one member within the group, and as a newcomer, I don't really make negotiations or have approaches or even have much interaction in the group. But I find that the group is very welcoming and very happy to have newcomers. And this can be related to the group process of building connection with in the community and meet new people. And yeah, that's it.
So the group I observed was the Pakistani Australian Christian Association. So it's a meeting of Pakistani Australians who are also Christians. So Christians in Pakistan make only like 2%, 3% of the population. So obviously that population in Australia is even smaller. So they found the need to make these meetings that are found across each state necessary in welcoming newcomers to Australia and coming together in worship and prayer. It's also a site for advocacy of Christian groups in Pakistan, as they are frequently beliefs. So yeah, it's a really useful way to observe another culture's obligations to their home country. So the skills and knowledge that I found useful when engaging with the community group was simply being able to observe the difference in culture between myself and the group. So because I was there to observe and I'm not part of the Pakistani community, obviously, it was really important for me to be able to identify that and identify the difference that I had with everyone else, but also the similarities in Christian values and beliefs that we held, and further advocacy for generally not oppressing people for their religious beliefs. So the community group engaged and approached me in probably a little bit of a different way than the rest of the groups, because I was a very clear outsider. I was the only white person in the room, actually, with about 150 people. So I was still, however, very warmly welcomed, and the group took ample opportunity to talk to me about being Australian and teaching me some of their native tongue, and getting really excited about the fact that I was even there. So that was really nice.
And so in terms of bringing together our assignments and the goals that we set as a student group in order to complete the tasks, one of the goals that I noticed that we worked really well together on was the idea of group commitment to obviously each other, but to meeting times in particular. And it's always encouraging when people rock up and show their face. Like even that is just a morale booster, I think, for a group project. And everybody was really good at rocking up on time and just being present when they were there. Phones down, everybody's here, and we're all in this together.
The second goal we had was the benefit of giving constructive feedback. I think having done the amount of presentations we have done at this stage in our degrees, constructive feedback is really valued. So we were all on the same page, and if there was any sort of feedback, which often there was, if we were looking at slides and wanted to change things, we just approached it in a really constructive and respectful manner, which I think was really well upheld.
A third strength that we had in the group, I think that we had a very even distribution of workload. So none of us allocated roles. We all assigned ourselves a role, and we basically complemented each other pretty well, and so it was even. There was no problems in uneven workload.
And the first group is the mutual deadlines was set in our group. So like some of us have personal planning. So especially for assignment 1, it was before the Easter break. So we actually made mutual decisions in uploading our notes to Google Docs earlier than the actual deadline for the assignment. So that's very helpful that we can have effective communications in making deadlines.
And our fifth goal was to respect and appreciate each other's contributions to the work. It meant that we could work cohesively and also appreciate the differences and similarities between our contributions and particularly the values that drive our work.
So moving on to the second segment of the presentation, which is the reflection and analysis of working as a group together. We'll begin with Bella.
Yeah. All right. So how is leadership and or facilitation occurring in our group? So in our group, everyone took on a level of both leadership and facilitation based on the different strengths that we all believe we have. Often in uni group work settings, there is a mutual understanding that work has to be done, and the fact that there's a deadline encourages this further. We found that when it came to delegating, there was more often than not a volunteer. So it was just about asking the right questions at the beginning to ensure everyone was on the same page and all the work was accounted for. So a specific example of that, when it came to making the slides, we literally just asked, who's good at making slides pretty? Re put a hand up as evident. Yeah, so that was obviously the right decision there. by simply asking who was doing what or how we were going to approach the various aspects of this assignment at the very beginning stage, in the very beginning stages, everything was effectively delegated and hence effectively facilitated.
Okay, so as Bella said, the roles that we took in our student group were very democratically taken. We were all volunteers. Yeah, so for the most part, it was evenly divided on the group. In the beginning stage of the assignment, we took a more active role in organising our first group meetings, and then that got us going with the Google Docs and everything. But yeah, as we said, the roles were voluntary. Yes.
And questions is how do we communicate with each other? And even though we do meet up a few times, but our main communication method is using online platforms, including Facebook groups and Google Docs. We found that this is the most convenient and efficient ways for our group to work because we all have very busy and different schedules. People have different tutorial time and have their work. So we found that discussing online and responding promptly enables us using the gap in our individual time and allowing us to work flexibly to achieve our goals. And we find that we are all very happy using these communication methods to save time in traveling and have more time to focus on the tasks themselves. Oh, sorry. And the group stages that I'm just reference to Jacobs and his colleagues' motto, which a more general group stages motto, and he talks about like all groups go through 3 stages: the beginning stage, the working or the middle stage, and the closing stage. We noticed that our group developments have very short beginning stage, and we barely have the closing stage because we are all very familiar with each other over 3 years of our courses, and our group purposes, which is completing the tasks and assignments, is very clear and straightforward, and we have already built certain level of trust, especially after the first assignment. And we honor that each members in the groups are accountable and competent to complete the task. Therefore, we understand that all of us are on the same page, and yeah, our meetings are actually quite casual and not very formal.
So between tasks being completed and looking up to relationships taking precedence, completing tasks with the most precedence, as we already have known each other for 4 years now, so we could trust that the tasks were going to get done, and we were also aware of each other's busy schedules and much of our own personal obligations. So yeah, little rapport building needed to occur. We all know each other, so that also meant that we knew each other's strengths and boundaries in terms of getting the tasks done.
Okay, so we ran extremely well. It was very, very smooth. We didn't have any hiccups really. We utilised like a similar style to the distributed functions approach. So everybody took a leadership role or a non-leadership role depending on what tasks needed to be completed, and they were all completed effectively by using this and supporting each other. When we scheduled meetings, everybody showed up, and we accommodated them into everybody's schedule and made sure it was all good for everybody. It was probably assisted by the fact that some of us had very similar schedules, so we were able to negotiate, judging by who was here the most. So that made it easier for us than some other groups, possibly. Our equal contribution in the respect that we all showed up and we all did an equal amount of work ensured that our group ran cohesively, particularly because it was task focused and we did want to complete the task. As such, no conflicts arose through our work together, and it was all pretty straightforward. Challenges. Some challenges may have presented throughout, but because we had technology and regular communication through that, I think that helped a lot. If we weren't able to meet in person, we were able to discuss things online and sort out any difficulties fairly quickly. Challenges may have presented if some people were unable to complete work due to clashes or distance, or had lacked the flexibility or work ethic of other members, but none of that occurred for us. Our long-term rapport with each other throughout the course probably contributed to this. All of us had similar perspectives on working with groups due to our past units and our professional ethics as well. In addition to this, we had the luxury of having similar timetables, as I said, and had other members have full-time commitments such as work during the day or children. That I think that would have affected our group dynamic very quickly. But rude. I think our similarities as a group, as uni students and as social work uni students, made it run very cohesively.
All right. Based on assumptions, what assumptions were challenged for me? Well, I mean, initially coming into not just this task, but this unit, group work is something that is not always peachy. So I had some negative assumptions, and having had some conversations with my group members about it, we've all had some negative group work experiences, which I'm sure everyone here can relate to. So coming into it, there was that negative assumption to start off with, but this was an extremely refreshing experience, which is a credit to our communication and each of our work ethics, the fact that we really balanced each other out really well. I think the fact that there was no one leader is something that I initially thought was potentially not going to work so well. However, we all took on the responsibilities equally, and by remaining consistent in our communication and getting the work done on time, there was really no need for a delegated leader, which is something that is often assumed is needed in groups. So that was an assumption that was challenged for us. I don't think taking that mindset into professional practice is the best idea, however, because I think in professional practices there are often leaders. So yeah, just keeping that in mind. But I do think that the fact that we've done so many group assignments throughout our degrees together plays a role in why it was so easy. The level of communication, however, and the mutual trust and respect that we fostered is something that I will definitely be encouraging in all professional work settings I find myself in, because I think that's what made this so successful.
So just to wrap up, in terms of evaluation, we've spoken a fair bit, I think, over the course of the semester about the ongoing process of evaluation and how it's not only supposed to begin at day dot and also be present at the last stage, but also throughout. And I think, as Ree mentioned, we were good in doing that. I saw that happening in terms of people when things were lagging behind, people like, okay, we're lagging a bit behind, let's have a group meeting, or let's get this document put together, and that sort of sped things up again. We also completed the evaluation form provided for the unit, which we found to be a helpful reflective task to see what participation was like, and often a lot of communication going on throughout the group. The suggestions for future students would be to utilise online communication to the best of your ability. You've got Google Docs, Google Slides, Facebook Messenger, Facebook groups. It all helps to create things run smoothly, and like it's been mentioned several times, we have competing schedules, so that works really well. Meeting at least bare minimum twice with your group is really good in terms of creating a cohesive presentation. You all know what everybody's doing when they're doing it, and when it comes to a presentation like this, it's really useful to have had some sort of run through prior to presenting. The other idea that we had was to put the information up for AT1 well before the due date, just so that everybody has time to write the assignment. It's no good if you have somebody uploading their stuff, a few days before the assignment's due, and you've got people who don't work like that, who want to have things done in advance. So having a deadline well before the due date was really helpful. And that was everything from us. Any questions?
Awesome presentation, guys. These slides were incredible. I love them. Really well done. Really liked, actually building off what you were just saying, it was really evident that you guys were very cohesive and consistent because throughout the presentation you would refer to each other's points, and that's really refreshing. I think with groups sometimes those things aren't clarified, but it was clear that you guys had really planned that, which was fantastic. I really liked the way you did after the first part about the individual presentation, you discussed your goals, I think it was, as a group, and each of you had a goal, and that just showed, I suppose, how well you worked as a group. And I thought that was a really great way of presenting it, and everything else was, really thought-provoking and thorough.
I thought that was very good. I liked the way you all were very detailed in your description of your own groups, especially the way Bella and Lauren talked about like different age groups and different socio backgrounds. I thought that was really cool to sort of give us an idea of what it looked like. And I was pretty disappointed that there was no conflict in the group. But despite that, I think you discussed it really well and reflected on how like that may have been due to the fact that you're all at a similar life stage. And that's something I think is really important to think about in terms of group work, because you're sort of similar in that regard. Things sort of went well. So that was cool to,
Yeah, I find you guys are really confident, and also because there's no conflict during the group interaction. And I think you are really good at discovering your achievements and summing up all the benefits of getting from the group activity. And also you are all being very encouraging and considerate. And also I really appreciate the suggestion because they are very practical and precise, and I think it will work for the next unit.
I think the presentation go very well. The first thing is I find it very interesting when you talk about the response from the group. I think this is what we didn't see from the peers. That is very interesting. We can see your actually your social skill go well in the group, especially with groups. You are only white people in the group, and yeah, I think it's very impressive. And I love your PowerPoint. It's very bold to make it so vibrant and colorful. For me, I find it very. I feel very dangerous to make it, but yeah, it actually go very well. But however, I have one thing to point out is that making every word capitalized is kind of hard to read. Yeah.
Yeah, the font did actually change from one to the other, so that was a bit unfortunate.
I thought you guys did a really good job. Most of my points have already been touched on by everyone else, but I liked we had a very thorough breakdown of each of your individual groups in the beginning, so I got a really good picture of like the purpose, the goal, and as Jikong was saying, like the responses that the groups had to using and observing. As Izzy said before, I liked how you broke down the goals and had one each, and then you spoke about how that strengthened the functioning of your group. I thought that was really good. And again, although you had almost no challenges, you still analysed like why that was a thing and what challenges could have arisen. And then I also liked at the end when I think it was Bella was talking about what you learned from this group project, and then how that can and can't be transferred to a professional setting.
I was really amazed at the diversity of the groups that you all attended, and I could really hear community development theory. Like in all of them, I was just amazed by, all of the aspects of anti-oppressive practice that we know about as social workers, like really strong social justice, feminism, religion, race, age, culture. Like that was really great that you teased those aspects out in your description as well. And then in terms of your working together, it was really great to hear your integration of group work theory and practice within your own group process in terms of the theoretical perspectives that you shared, the goal setting, and thinking about the impact of the different aspects of your group on your group functioning in terms of technology and life stage and the qualification that you're doing and schedules. Like I could hear you critically reflecting on kind of both aspects within the presentation. So thank you.
Yeah, well done, really good. I agree with Jane that you did a really strong job integrating theory and practice, and I think what helped you too in giving a bit more of an analytical focus was that you gave a lot of examples to back up your points and examples and explanations of points. So I'd say to all of you, remember to do that in your assignment as well, because that strengthens your analysis. So assignment 3, we're really looking at critical reflection and analysis, so remember to do that. So well done there, and I like the last section too, where you came up with some different ideas for next year's students. That was some thing to comment, was that, you know, very practical and well thought out. So, yeah, good job.
Thank you.